Competitiveness, it's one of those things that it's easy for politicians to talk about because it's sufficiently vague that everyone can be in favour of it without always being entirely clear what they're being in favour of. But like every other part of economic recovery, becoming competitive isn't easy. Maura McDougall, let's start. We had a cut in the minimum wage. Did that make sense?
Yes, but not as much sense perhaps as some people at my end of the political spectrum might suggest, because minimum wages are things to be kept clear of. They're terrible. All economists are bred to believe that. Actually, the evidence
on the whole philosophy of minimum wage, let's imagine, I mean, in the spirit of asking questions that no other programme asks, let's imagine there's a person who has a little shop or a little coffee shop in some rural village. They could do with a little bit of help. They can afford to pay maybe €7 an hour. They know someone who'll take the job for just a few hours a week, keep them working, keep them connected with the labour force, and yet that's against the law.
Well, actually, you could be wrong on that, because we have a minimum wage of $8.50, but when you examine it, it's not quite as simple as that. If you're under 18, if you're 18 and 21...
The woman isn't under 18 for the purposes of our example.
Whatever it is. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that is true. The issue which the people on the Labour Party, for example, and Fine Gael have said, and I don't agree with them on this, is that it makes very little difference anyway, so you might as well raise it because only 2 or 3% of people are actually on the minimum wage. Well, of course, that's true, if there are only 2 or 3% of people on the minimum wage. But the question is, the question which you put, which is, what about the people who would work for less? And if you've got to pay them more, and then, this is the idiot part of it, then tax them on what they get for it. I mean, this is crazy stuff. But if you're going to do that, then I just think you've lost sight of it. But what's really important about this is that the state is moving in to regulate the price which is to be paid. And the difficulty here is that it's not just the minimum wage, that the $8.50 everybody's talking about. Actually, I would cheerfully give that up as a political sop to the left if I could get the 1946 Industrial Relations Act.
We'll come back on, we'll come on to that. We haven't forgotten about... I suggest this, actually. A lot of people would think it's madness to have groups of people sitting around negotiating wages for electricians and for building workers. I mean, there was an electrician's dispute, and I remember interviewing an electrical contractor who said, I can't pay electricians any less than this. It's got nothing to do with the minimum wage. It's way above the minimum wage. I think it was something like €15 an hour. How does that make sense?
An employer is going to say that, obviously, because that's obviously the nature of the system.
But if an employee wants to work for €13 an hour, do we have any right to deny him or her that right?
This is about enhancing the conditions of all workers, not about facilitating a situation which isolates and drags people down.
It's not about dealing with the reality, Claire.
It is, yeah, and the reality is it's imposed, and people having less money, if you like, to spend. It's the lack of a stimulus, really, that has led to those problems.
So
and that's why your shopkeepers and all of that.
If there's an order to raise everybody's wages, the economy will be more competitive.
In a recession, actually, other countries have increased the minimum wage, precisely to engender more spending. We have a ridiculous situation in this.
Claire, which one?
A number of our European counterparts have done
Which one?
A number of them. Quite a few.
Well, even the numbers.
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
And
the question at the moment is the employment regulation orders.
Is a reduction in the minimum wage going to help this? I would say no. I would say that the way we create jobs is by providing the atmosphere out there for businesses.
So what about employment?
And things such as reducing the PRS.
Sorry, Dominic. Let me ask you. Let me keep you on the subject. What about employment regulation orders, which to an awful lot of people seem like an incredibly old-fashioned way to have people's wages set? What do you say to that?
Those are there for a reason. Those are negotiated by employers and by their unions. Over time, they're in place. They've served their purpose. They've been there a long time.
Have they served their purpose? Should they be abolished?
No, I don't think
they're being ignored. They're
protecting the workers from exploitation.
They're being absolutely. They're being absolutely ignored by people in the real economy. Because as the supply of people has gone up, inevitably the price goes down. The problem that we're going to face, and we're already facing, which was similar to the 1980s, is this growing black economy. People aren't paying taxes, they're not registered with anyone, they're just doing work because they're being taxed out of the equation. So we're already finding realistic wage levels across the economy because the supply of people there.
Why are you putting up that? Why are you going to put up that so much?
We're going to do it down.
Not to the same extent. Not to the same
It's in your
extent.
manifesto.
Sorry, we don't permit shouting matches here.
It's in your plan as well.
John, sorry.
I'd like to explain two things. First of all, just about the minimum wage. Think about it. Suppose you were to raise it to $8.50 or to $9.50. And the arguments, you want to do it because it's the low paid or it's women or whatever it is. You're saying they're not being paid enough. So your solution to the problem is to tell employers to pay them more because the state won't pay them a bit. I mean, the state has the option of saying, fine, we'll give you an extra euro an hour. But it doesn't do that. It tells employers they have to do it. Now, just think about that. You're actually off budget engaging in taxation and spending. You're taking from employers to give to the workers, and you've raised it. But what interests me much more is this question of these registered employment agreements, as if they simply were some kind of democratic thing. I don't know how many people are actually aware of what happens. If a bunch of large employers in the construction sector, in the electrical contracting sector, get together with the trades unions and go in and register an agreement, and if the Labour Court thinks that they're sufficiently large, this agreement can be extended to everybody in the sector. This isn't a question of some democratic decision and all the workers in the sector. It's actually, in many respects, a collusive agreement between the unions and large employers. With what object? To prevent competition from small employers.
And reductions in price.
Claire, very last word from you.
Well, we have 300,000 people affected by these, and you're looking at it again the wrong way around. These people, this is their wages. It's on these wages that they've got their mortgage, that they go and spend their money, and all of the rest. We cut those wages. That can only add to their problems, obviously, but also deflate the economy further.
And that really is where we're going to have to leave it. That's all we have time for on this Primetime's last late debate of election 2011. Thanks for watching, and we do hope you've enjoyed our discussions. From all of us and the Late Debate team, a very good night.